is more than just what's on our plate. It's the places where it's grown, it's the people who grow it, and so much more. Join me, Janice Person, your host, on Grounded by the Farm every other week as we talk about the foods we love. Hello, everybody. This is Janice on Grounded by the Farm. And this week, I am so excited. We get to talk about flowers. And it's a different thing. A lot of people don't think about flower farms per se as farms. We think of farms in our yards or maybe at the botanical gardens. But I've actually been able to see a few flower farms in Holland, out in Oregon in the Pacific Northwest, and some things locally. And so today, though, we're going far away again. We're talking to Ben Cross, and his family runs Crosslands Flower Nursery. And as I understand that puts you guys right down on the southern coast with the English Channel. Did I get my geography right, Ben?
Yeah. Hi, listeners. Hi, guys. Yeah, we are based right on the south coast of the UK, so about an hour and a half direct south of London. And we're between the South Downs National Park, sort of rolling hills, and the Channel, the beach, the ocean. So perfect climate for growing and the best light levels in the UK. So it's, the best soil, best light levels, a lovely little eco climate going on. So it's sort of cooler here in the summer with the nice sea breeze and warmer here in the winter with the Downs National Park protecting us from the southwesterlies, which is the prevailing sort of weather that comes into the UK. So that's where we're based, yeah. Near Brighton, if anyone sort of knows the city of Brighton, we're near there. So look us up on Google Earth or whatever you want to do.
A girlfriend of mine in college married a guy from Brighton, and I can still remember the whole family coming over for the wedding. The accents in your part of the UK, absolutely amazing. I can still remember a 3 or 4 year old boy and just thinking it was so unusual to see such a lively child throwing around that British accent. In the US, we have a thing about your accents, I think. So
I think I don't know why, because like I love the American accent. I don't think I've got an accent, I just talk. This is like normal. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I like the American accent, so we kind of like each other's accents. It's kind of cool.
It's a mutual love society. I feel
it is. Yeah.
So we're talking about flowers today, and the kinds of farms I've seen have really run the gamut, from things like cut flowers to bulbs so that I could plant the bulbs in my yard, to people who are growing for the local farmers markets, to people who are growing for major chains. So help me understand, what is it that you guys do?
So we specialize in the British grown Alstroemeria, also known as the Peruvian lily or lily of the Inca, because the seed originates from Chile and Peru, sort of lives naturally halfway up the Andes. That's where Darwin's cousin Australomeria brought the seed back from, hence Alstroemeria, the Latin name. And I'm sure you'll give my social handles at the end, but if you don't know what Australomeria look like, you can check me out on social media and have a look at the pretty pictures. So yeah, we started specializing in those in the 60s and 70s, because here in the UK they're a very sustainable crop to grow. So it's like, why try and grow something and force something to grow when you're going to spend loads of carbon footprint and energy doing it? So Grandad sort of arrived in the 60s and 70s growing that, and slowly but surely the whole flower nursery came over to growing it, and that's what we do. So we do over 70 varieties. I think we do 79 varieties, so a smorgasbord, a plethora of different varieties and colours.
Wow.
And we have a full colour range all year round. So the only colours we don't do are blue and black, but we do all the other colours.
You said Alstroemeria is low on water use, very sustainable. I would also point out that I love Alstroemeria in my house because it typically lasts longer than sunflowers. Sunflowers that you put in a vase as a cut flower, they'll wilt pretty quick. It just depends. And I think Alstroemeria has a great hardiness to it that if you can have them a little longer if you have cut flowers.
Yeah, well, each flower has a meaning. Well, the meaning of Alstroemeria is long-lasting friendship.
I had no idea.
Because it is a long-lasting flower. So, each like a lily and a rose, and they all have meanings. The meaning of Alstroemeria is long-lasting friendship. And then I think if you want to go really mental, each petal of the flower also means something, I think, like romance and wealth and intelligence and all that stuff. But the general meaning of Alstroemeria is long-lasting friendship, because it is a long-lasting flower. I had one of my customers phoned me up the other day and she said they lasted 4.5 weeks in her vase in our home. So I mean, they're super fresh because they're straight out the ground with the customer, you know.
Yeah.
So they're even longer lasting when they're locally grown. Yeah, the stem is just full of water, and like with most flowers, if people are obviously listening into this, if you want to make your flowers last longer, you want to strip all the leaves off the stems, change the water every 2 or 3 days. When you change the water, you want to snip a bit of the end of the stem off because bacteria builds up around the base of the flower in the water. So you want to snip that bit off, dunk it in your fresh water. Don't have your flowers in direct sunlight or on a radiator or near electronics that are going to get hot. Keep it somewhere nice and cool. And yeah, Alstroemeria, they'll chug on for 2 or 3 weeks if you look after them.
I love it. Giving me tips to make my flowers last longer is the kind of stuff I love. Absolutely. Are Alstroemeria, are they annuals? Are they perennials? How does it work on the farming side of Alstroemeria?
To give people sort of an image, the flower beds are about 1 meter wide, 30 meters long, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of beds all around the nursery in greenhouses, in big glass houses that are all biomass sustainably heated. And we do millions of stems through the whole year, with spring and autumn when we're doing tens of thousands of stems a week. So we've just literally, today our family's packed about 13,000 stems, and that's gone to a supermarket tonight. That's a portion of what we've done this week is 13,000 to one customer, and then we've obviously got loads of other customers. So we're super busy now. We're in season. And from now until Christmas, we'll be harvesting 7 days a week. And then between Christmas and Valentine's Day, which is our sort of quietest time, we're still harvesting sort of 3 days a week. So keeps us out of trouble. Yeah.
And Alstroemeria, the plant is successful in a greenhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much year round.
Yeah, I mean, Alstroemeria is known as a protected ornamental. The clue is in that title, protected ornamental. So if you've got a little greenhouse, a conservatory, you can grow them indoors as a house plant, because a lot of the dwarf varieties grow quite short. And if you don't have that, they just love somewhere sort of protected in the garden. So against like a wall or a protected wall or something like that. Here in the UK, if you can imagine, if you grew them near like an ocean breeze, they'd grow quite short. And then the further away from that shelter, the sea breeze, somewhere more sheltered, they were going to grow taller, more vigorously and things like that. So yeah, they're a protected ornamental. So if you can grow them indoors. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Or somewhere protected. Yeah.
What all goes into that, growing them in greenhouses? Obviously you have to control the amount of water. What all goes into that process?
The two most important things that we need to look after in the greenhouse isn't actually the plants or the flowers, because basically the two most important things, if we look after the climate and we look after the soil, if we look after those two things, then the rest should take care of itself. So to look after the climate, we have heating pipes. So we have a flow and return, a heating pipe, a bit like a radiator pipe that goes around the base of all of the beds. So that heat gives a nice dry atmosphere down by the root system. Then as the heat comes off that pipe, especially in the winter, it dries off the condensation that can build up on the crop.
Oh, nice.
Because if you get a damp crop in the winter, soggy sort of winter cold days, you get botrytis, yellow leafing. The crop doesn't really want to grow that much, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, you've got to think, if you're not enjoying being in your garden or in your greenhouse, it's not a good atmosphere for you as a human. What do you think your plant's going to feel, you know? So, you know, you've got to keep it a nice, dry, warm atmosphere. So we've got our heating pipes. So that's stage one. Secondly, we've got irrigation running through the bottom of the bed, just above the soil. And we've got irrigation where we water from above. So in the winter, when the crop's really, I'm over 6 foot tall, but the crop, the flowers, the stems get to about 7-8 foot tall.
Oh, wow.
They're monsters, you know, humongous long stems, because sustainability wise, we don't have any artificial lighting in the greenhouses. So the good thing is that we don't cause any light pollution, but what we do get in the winter, very tall, lush growth. So to bypass all of that foliage, we use that low level irrigation to get the nutrients and water direct to the soil. And then in the summer, when the crop's a lot shorter, we use the overhead irrigation. So that's how you're sort of feeding the soil and changing the climate along with the heating as well. And obviously we've got ventilation. So we've got vents in the roof of the greenhouse, so we can control the temperature that way if it gets too hot.
Do you have like a Do you have like a water cooling system? Does it get that hot?
No,
I'm from the southern US, and so we always have to worry about how to get those greenhouses cooler.
Yes, basically, obviously we'll get onto it later, but the UK, over 90% of flowers in the UK are now imported, and they come from pretty warm, hot countries. And in those countries, they basically pump cold water around the root systems to sort of trick the crop into growing, and basically you're forcing growth. And basically, if you work a crop hard, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to replace it more, and then use peat and more chemicals and sterilization. And so we grow what we call pretty naturally here. It's a dry crop, so we only water 20 minutes once a month in the winter, and water for 20 minutes once every 10 days in the summer. So it's a dry crop.
Wow.
And in the winter, the optimum temperature sort of on a winter's night is only 13 degrees. So it's also known in the UK as a cool crop. So it looks cool in your arrangements and in your vases, but by a cool crop, we mean we're not burning a lot of energy to heat it. And when we do burn, we're on the sustainable biomass pellets. So we don't burn oil anymore. We've got a lot of woodland around us that needs to be managed. And all of that managed wood goes into little pellets. And we burn about 100 tons of those pellets a winter just to keep it to 13 degrees in the greenhouse. So yeah, it's very sustainable. And a lot of the plants that we've got are over 20, 30 years old.
Wow.
So we only replant less than 5% of the crop a year. So we've got hundreds of beds, and this year we've only earmarked about 3 beds to be replaced. So all in all, growing Alstroemeria here in the UK, it's pretty dang sustainable. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was going to ask you how often you need to replant, because it seems, a perennial plant at some point, they start having some kind of problem, right? Like they're just old enough that, something has to go wrong. You guys, I know, are really focused on keeping problems out of greenhouses, but occasionally you have to have some insects or something come in. How do you guys usually try and deal with those things?
Yes, so we don't use any pesticides or insecticides anymore. We use what you call biocontrols. So we're using biology to kill other biology. So to give you an example, to control whitefly, we use Encarsia. So Encarsia look like, under a microscope, they look like a big ant with fangs, and they just chomp away at the whitefly. So they come on little cards. You hang that card up in your greenhouse. The Encarsia, the predator, will walk off of the card. They'll hunt down the whitefly and chomp away at the whitefly. To encourage Encarsia populations, you can use banker plants or companion planting. So you can basically grow eggplants, tomatoes, cucumbers, courgettes sporadically in and amongst the Alstroemeria in the greenhouses, and they'll act as like a Venus flytrap for whitefly. So naturally, the whitefly are attracted off of the Alstroemeria onto the aubergine plants or eggplants, and then the Encarsia just chomp away. So that's sort of one example of how we combat a pest sort of without chemicals.
By the way, congrats for translating as you go back and forth from aubergine to eggplant and glasshouse and greenhouse.
Yeah, I know. I've done a lot of American interviews, and I know you call aubergines eggplants.
Yeah,
so, yeah, and I do now as well, because I know so many Americans. Yeah.
But you also get the added benefit of having some eggplants in there. For folks who don't know, whiteflies, they create like a sticky kind of thing on the underside of leaves, like they feed on the plant, and they can really cause some big problems. So you want to keep control very early, is why you're saying you hang these cards, and you have these plants that are kind of put in there as kind of sacrificial lambs for the whiteflies.
Yeah, I mean, we still get the fruit off of all those plants, but basically they're called companion planting or banker plants. You've probably all heard of permaculture now, where basically you're growing things alongside other things to keep the pests down, and it's a lot more sort of eco-friendly. So there's a big sort of wave of people trying to do all of that, basically, that use biocontrol and grow things near other things which are going to limit the pests.
Yeah, we talked really briefly about it being from a more tropical area of South America. Would love to talk to you about sort of how much of an industry there is in Britain, and how you guys are, doing local. Like you mentioned sending to a grocery store, but what do your customers look like there in the UK?
We supply supermarkets right down to the general public. Here in the UK, over 90% of our flowers are imported. So in 2014, I started the British Flowers Rock campaign, which is all about basically
For those of you, you can't see his video, but I will get the photograph of him doing the rocking pose.
Yeah, so I started the British Flowers Rock campaign in 2014, and that's basically doing podcasts and interviews and just making people aware that obviously in other countries as well, you've got American grown and you've got the slow flower movement there in America. So when you're buying food, Americans with the Jamie Olivers of this world and other people, you're trying to buy sort of more healthy, more seasonal, more local with the food. And you've got to be thinking exactly the same when it comes to flowers, because the carbon footprint of flowers going around the world, it's pretty much like Han Solo in Jabba's palace, sort of cryogenically frozen in time as they're frozen at about 0.5 degree. Their storage is pumped full of chemicals. The amount of plastics and packaging used in the flower industry is probably more than the food industry, and the carbon footprint and environmental impacts of all this movement around the world is radonkulous. So the British Flowers Rock thing, that's what I've been doing since 2014, just raising the awareness here in the UK to the UK public to support local and support not just British farmers, but British growers growing flowers as well as food. So we still supply Morrison's, who are a big supermarket here, and we supply cafes and restaurants, because what's the point of eating locally sustainable food in a restaurant, but the flower on your tables come from Cambodia or Peru or Colombia or Kenya or something. So we supply that. And weddings now here in the UK, when people getting married, they want like an ethical wedding. They want to know their diamond hasn't been, dodged, really dodgy. They want to know their dress is ethically made.
Yep.
They want the food at their wedding to be local. And it's the same with the flowers. So we supply direct to the public as well. So it's picked, packed, and it's at people's houses the next day. So we go across the whole thing, because here in the UK there's not many growers left really, so we've had to diversify and supply people that care about the planet a bit and care about traceability and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you've diversified in terms of your customers, but you're really focused on Alstroemeria as a flower type.
Yeah.
Within that breed of flowers, or what is it, genus of flowers? I don't know what it is, but within Alstroemeria there are all these different varieties.
Oh, there are thousands and thousands. Yeah. From the garden varieties to the dwarf varieties to the butterfly little types to the commercial varieties that we grow. So, yeah.
Where is like new stuff in Alstroemeria coming from? Like, is there a company that actually works on that, or university systems, or?
Yep. So there's big companies. They're the breeders. So they have laboratory where they do the DNA cell division and they do the mutations and basically come up with new varieties. Basically, to give you some idea, if we want to replace one of our beds, that costs about £1,500. I don't know what that is in dollars. It's probably about $2,000 or something, if something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then every year that those plants are in the soil, we have to pay a license as well.
Okay.
We have to pay a license to the breeders that have bred that variety. So it's very specialist, very expensive, and not to be taken for granted. What we're doing is expensive specialist stuff. So,
yeah.
But yeah, they're coming up with new varieties all the time. So they give me basically free trial varieties. So I've got flower beds that have got about 20 odd varieties in, and then I'll cherry pick the ones that are growing the best and are easy to maintain and productive and stuff like that.
And my guess is sometimes it's around the agronomics of the variety, like you're talking about hardiness and that thing. And sometimes surely they do like a new color or a new spotting pattern or something that's brilliant in terms of looks.
Yeah, we're always looking for the best purple, the best yellow, the best red. So they'll give us new varieties. But for example, the best red we've got is 20, 30 years old. One of the best pale yellows we got is 20, 30 years old. So the new stuff isn't always the best. It may work really well in Japan or Brazil or Colombia, but in the UK, it doesn't quite like it. So we've been doing it for a long time. We know what varieties cope best with the British weather. And we obviously know how to maintain the crop and look after it and get the best out of what we've got, sort of thing. So
you're a farmer and you're the front man in terms of marketing, I would assume, because the podcast and everything seem to be you. But I see your pictures with your father. Who all else in the business is family?
Yes, a really brief history. We've been going since 1936, so I'm fourth generation. In the 1930s here in the UK, we had the Great Depression, a lot of shipbuilders, a lot of miners out of work. So what the government did is to set up over 20 areas around the UK where unemployed families would go and work and farm the land. And my great-grandparents were originals, one of the original families to sign on the dotted line and take the government up on this initiative. Then my granddad joined them after World War II. He then met my nan, who was a Pompey girl from Portsmouth here in the UK. Had my dad, uncles and aunties.
She was a what girl?
Oh, have you ever heard of the city Portsmouth?
Yes. Oh, okay.
In the UK, so that the slang for Portsmouth is Pompey. So
okay.
that means yeah. So she was from Pompey. So
okay.
we don't say Portsmouth, we say Pompey. So I guess you've got a slang for some of your cities.
Obviously.
Like the Big Apple, New York, the Big Apple. Exactly. You call it, whatever. They're so good they named it twice or three times. I can't remember. But then my grandparents took it on. And then my parents, uncles and aunties. And then I actually did marine biology from 2000 to 2011. And then I came back here in 2011. And then here I am talking to you. So, yeah, it's a bit of a whirlwind. But yeah, so fourth generation. We've been going since 1936, which is very rare in farming and even rarer in the cut flower trade. Because as I said, there's not many UK flower growers left. So. Yeah, that's a brief sort of history, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that gets me through the questions I had. What did I miss, Ben?
I don't know. We could go on and on and on.
I think between you and I, we really could go on and on forever.
Now, there's so much to talk about. But
what does your farm look like if somebody's able to come out? They drive out, I assume. I don't assume you're on the train line. They'd hop in a car and come over.
Yeah.
They'd see big greenhouses, or are they a lot of small greenhouses? How do you guys have it set up?
Yeah, big greenhouses. Again, you should be able to check out my social media. There's a lot of videos and pictures, and I'm always updating my IG stories inside the greenhouses as well, so you can get a bit of scale of what it is. But we've basically got 5 greenhouses that cover about 4 acres, I think.
And then you have to have the building or something where you're doing some of the processing, where you're packaging or packaging.
Yeah, we've got the original shed from 1957 that's still standing. So we've got a nice big wooden shed, which that's where the flowers get graded out into the premium grade and the posy grade. And I don't know if you guys, Jamie Oliver and people like that, did things on the wonky veg. So you've got, you must have spoken to other farmers where, you get wonky parsnips, wonky carrots, and it's called it's called the war on waste. So people are now encouraged to buy that wonky veg and use it and help the war on waste. And we also do wonky flowers. So supermarkets and wholesalers here, they have specifications. We throw away tens and tens of thousands of stems because they don't come up to specifications. So if they're under 22.1 grams each, they're a bit gnarly, they're a bit wonky, but the actual quality of flower is just as good, and it's going to last for 2 or 3 weeks. We do a wonky styly posy grade and we do a premium grade, so they get graded out. Then it goes on to a big machine, a big conveyor belt. It goes down to a machine where they get cut, they get automatically de-leafed, so the leaf is automatically removed, and then they automatically get binded into a bunch, and then they get packaged, boxed up, and out they go. So the shed still works. So again, why as growers we're frugal. Every elastic band, every bit of sellotape we are, every bit of packaging we keep, every pallet is it's we're sort of frugal people.
Yeah, find a way to use things, preferably 2-3 times different ways.
Exactly. Yeah. There's not a lot of money around, so you just got to use what you got. Exactly. Yeah. All
right. Well, in the show notes, I've got, I watched way too many of the videos and things on your Facebook page and your Instagram, your Alstroemeria. And that is not a word that's automatically spelled in English because it's Latin. So I'll let you spell it.
Yeah. So Australomeria, everyone misses out the E between the O and the M. So it's ALSTROEMERIA. Alstroemeria, and it's that silent E between the O and the M. So Yeah.
And you're Alstroemeria Ben on both Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, Alstroemeria Ben on Twitter and IG. And then if you type in Crosslands Flower Nursery into the search function of Facebook, we pop up there as well. So, yeah.
And I would encourage people to find you on Clubhouse. If they're on Clubhouse, that's how I actually came across you, which is the first time I've had somebody on the podcast from Clubhouse.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of different rooms for farmers and for people who love flowers or people who love food. Or
I don't know what I'm on Clubhouse. I might be under just Ben Cross. Yeah, so on Clubhouse, I'm Ben Cross, and is that a username? Is Alstroemeria Ben on Clubhouse as well? So I keep it nice and easy. So, but I think you can search Ben Cross or Alstroemeria Ben, and you'll no doubt see my ugly mug on the profile. So there you go.
Well, yeah. I will make sure I include a couple of links. Otherwise, there was a magazine article you did with Tharawat magazine on sort of the business side of things. We didn't really talk about that a lot, but you were talking about, you're a biology kind of guy, a farming kind of guy, and the business side is something that's really exciting for your family, but it's an area that you have to work a little bit harder on. It may not be as natural to.
Yeah.
And to many farmers, I think that's a piece that many farmers really love growing, and the lifestyle, and the business side is where they actually have to put real, feels like work into. But that, and there was also a passion podcast I saw that I thought would be really nice to share. So I'll share those in the notes, and we'll encourage people to get in touch with you. And I think here in the US, I would encourage people to kind of look around and see that if you might have local farms that are growing some flowers. I frequently can find them at a farmer's market. It may not be all the choices in flowers that you have if you go on a global scale, but there are some really beautiful ones. There's a lavender farm really close to St. Louis that I really encourage people to do. Sunflowers are big in various parts of the US, and there are also people growing Alstroemeria somewhere, I'm sure. I have some friends in the Bay that grow cut flowers.
Oh, yeah.
And just outside of San Francisco. So,
and peonies as well, I think, isn't it? I think in the US somewhere. I was on a podcast and someone said peonies are quite big where you guys are as well.
Peonies are quite big. Actually, they're
only around for like 4 or 5 weeks, but
this is peony season. My mom was we were just taking a look at them here in Memphis to see if they were ready to start blooming, and that flower is getting big and hard and circular, and eventually it's going to break through. And so
they always remind me of like Chubba Chubs. Do you have those in America, the Chubba Chub lollies? The sweets?
Oh, yes.
Do you know the ones I mean? The Chubba Chub sweets. They look like that, don't they? All tight and sort of funky coloured, and then they just unfurl, and then they spring into life. But when they're like a lolly on a stick,
Exactly.
Funny little things when they're growing.
Yeah, but I was lucky enough to see a flower farm where they were selling peony bulbs and things. So I was there at the height of the season where they were all in bloom, and they had irises and peonies was all they were doing. And I could have spent days at that farm. I think they probably would have gotten tired of me, but they were very lovely people. They welcomed me in and let me look around. And I put some things up on the blog about it previously. So I'll bring some of that up as well, because I think it'd be nice for people to discover some of those people here more locally.
Nice one.
Yeah. So Ben, thank you so much for joining us. This was really lovely. I appreciate your coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me, and thanks to the listeners for listening. It's all good. Thank you very much.
I'd encourage people, if you really enjoyed this episode, either leave us a review or tell your friends, hey, you got to hear this. This is cool stuff. So anyway, I'm Janice. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you in 2 weeks. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I'm even on Clubhouse. So feel free to look us up. Also on our website, groundedbythefarm.com. Wherever you want to get in touch, we're trying to be there. Shoot us a message about questions you have about farming and food. I hope you enjoy these episodes enough that you'll share them with friends, whether that's via social media or in a conversation. Love to think some of that is while you're having dinner with friends and family. This is a production of Grounded Communications. Editing is by Two Guys Talking. Thank you.